All right. So today we got the man himself, Ori. So we've been working with Ori on cold callers recently. Man's absolute professional when it comes to the game, cold calling, and today we're pretty much just gonna yap on everything cold calling. And Ori has a lot of very interesting insights to share today. So if you want to go ahead and just introduce yourself, and we can get
Yeah,
started.
so my name's Ori. I have two companies. So I have Mirraponte Marketing, which is an outreach agency that I run with my wife, and then I have Manos Health that I run with my wife and my business partner Rashab, which is a healthcare marketing and consulting firm. We work with a lot of large healthcare companies and small. So we work with I have clients that are like agencies that are barely above $10,000 a month. And I have also as a client the American Psychological Association, Uber Health, AstraZeneca, like big names. And cold calling works for all of them, but in different ways. So I think my journey into cold calling, I think, started when I was 15. So as soon as my voice got deep enough, my family, we used to train bartenders. And my mom, so you would call, I would have to get them jobs. As soon as my voice got deep enough, my mom was like, I was like I was so anal that I had a stopwatch and I would turn the watch on when I was working. And then when I went to like the bathroom or something, I would turn the watch off and because I didn't want to
Yeah.
get any money from my mom that I didn't earn, like my family.
Oh
So
wow. Yeah.
this is I've become such an asshole Boy Scout ever since, which has
Yeah.
been the source of a lot of my problems. But
Yeah.
so I was cold calling, and I was just I was absolutely fearless. Like I would just call places and I would just go from the phone book and I would call and I would get like 17, 18 jobs a week for our students. I'd be like, hey, can I talk to the manager or the bar manager? Do you need a bartender? We're going to do this. And I was too stupid to be intimidated because I would call this guy. I remember I called this guy. I think it was Blue Martini in Philadelphia, which used to be like a big club in like Old City.
Yeah.
And the guy was like, "You guys suck. I would never hire bartenders without 5 years of experience." And he hung up on me. And then I called him back and I said, "You suck." I was like, "You are full of it. We've worked here, we've placed in the Ritz Carlton, we did this." And then later, I remember when I was like 20, I walked by this place and you see all these like gorgeous people outside. I was like, holy shit, I would never, if I knew what I was doing, I never would have opened my mouth. But it's
Yeah.
very important when you're calling to have that level of self-belief and fearlessness. You don't necessarily want to do what I did, but maybe just once. I only did it once. But
Yeah.
basically, so I've been cold calling for a long time. And then we got into the agency world. We had a seven-figure hospitality-based business. We were 2 blocks away from the Comcast Center in Philadelphia. So we do these events and we would work with Deloitte and McKinsey and Bain, and it was like $200 a person for these 2 hour events. We would light drinks under water, we would light cocktails on fire. It was like a class, and people loved it. And I was like, I wish I could get these leads on demand because they would just find us on the internet and call us. And I was like, it was never enough business.
Yeah.
And when the so in about this is like the anniversary in May is the anniversary of the cold email apocalypse of 2024. So basically, if you were running cold email, you saw a huge drop off. Like we went from getting 30, 40, 50 leads a day to 3, 4, 5 leads a day. And we were like, oh my God, what do we do? And that's when like Bison started coming out. That's when like Dean and like the scaled mail, the super, like you started to
Yeah.
get because there was a counterculture, right? So everybody was following like the cold email wizard, like Client Ascension. Like I was teaching for Client Ascension, and then all of a sudden the old playbook wasn't working. Like it was like sort of like Facebook in 2022 when they changed the algorithm with like the iPhone, where you couldn't get the Facebook like leads got more expensive, got more complicated to do. And this is just something that has happened in pretty much every industry. No alpha lasts forever. So a lot of times what happens is there's a community, there is a way of doing things that's built around an edge that you have in the market, then more and more people on board to it, and then the edge goes away. It was like a fire festival or something. It's nobody's fault, but it's like when things scale, they scale fast. So it's like I
Yeah.
remember like Ashton Hall's going through that now. Like he can't fulfill, so he has all these videos coming at Ashton Hall scam, and I was like, well, he probably went from 10 clients to like 400 that are paying 10K a month. He just
Yeah.
can't. It breaks. So with cold email, we think it was some kind of AI advanced filtration, and but it doesn't matter why. What happens was what the and a lot of guys like you came up that were really technically oriented. You guys got better, and then a lot of the younger guys, I was getting DMs like once a week from a guy's like, "I'm going to jump off the Brooklyn Bridge." Like, I don't think this cold email thing works.
Yeah.
And every business owner has to super compensate. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you think about the one skill in business that you need more than anything else, it's super compensation.
Yeah.
So like I knew that I would be good at business because when I tore ACL, MCL, Olympic weightlifting, I didn't want to get surgery. So I asked all my friends that were yoga teacher, this and this and this, and I found this Ido Portal guy that trained Conor McGregor, and then he like rehabbed my knee. It was the biggest asshole, but it worked. So it was like that ability to come back from getting smacked and you
Yeah.
get better than ever before is like something that you need in business because it's always a question of when things will break. Like no
Yeah.
campaign is ever perfect. The caller is never perfect. Callers gain and lose motivation. The scripts degrade. The scraping strategy needs to be altered. Like you never reach the end.
Yeah.
It just continues. It's like you make like Bitcoin goes up and then you wake up the next morning and it goes down. Like it never ends. You
Yeah.
just get better and better and better. So
Exactly.
I started to make content sort of exposing the industry without really the intention of being like Kanye or something. I didn't want to be like a crazy contrarian figure. I just wanted to find a new like team, a new network of people that like I was like, okay, these guys are really high level business, really connected to the business, not so much to explaining what it is. Like they were living and dying by their own results. And so I
Yeah.
ended up finding that community, put $50,000 plus into infrastructure with cold email. But at the same time, we started experimenting. We're like, what else can we do? Can we run ads? Because everybody's initial instinct was like, we got to run ads. And then other people were telling me, do LinkedIn, do cold call. And I was like, right, let's do everything. So we found out that for healthcare, we couldn't run ads because the TAM was too small. There are three different total addressable markets that we target: funded startups, enterprise, and in the smaller clinics. But all of those TAMs are too like small to run ads for. So we couldn't run ads. We were doing LinkedIn. It was good, but it was slow. And then we started to do cold calling, and then cold calling really worked. And a big part of the reason it really worked is because I had trained a lot of salespeople in my past. What the reason people struggle with cold calling, and you don't see a lot of cold calling agencies out there that can execute at a high level, is the human element. Because everybody starts an online business to get away from people. And then you're like, shit, I have to work with people. What do I do? So
Yeah.
we were really good at that part. So I want to talk about like how we think about the whole process from A to Z. But I remember like the moment where I knew we are so back. It was the Friday after Christmas, and we got I think 15 leads in
Mhm.
one day, and we were like,
From cold calling.
yeah, from cold
Yeah.
calling. So we do cold calling for ourselves. We only part time. That's all my company can handle is one part time caller. We do
Yeah.
1,000 dials a day. We do about 1,000 cold emails a day. We do a I don't know, 120 LinkedIn requests today. We'll do anywhere between 100 to 150 leads, and we close 5 to 15% of those. And like, this is basically what our clients, that's the reason people hire us. A lot of my calls, I'll just share the screen and I'll be like, oh, you have like this agency, let me show you similar results. And like, the big thing with cold outreach and with cold calling is you have to get really good at playing high level communication and status games. So if you think about like, let me ask you this question: why do you think that somebody with maybe a British accent or an American accent does better as a cold caller than maybe somebody from Africa or somebody from India?
Well, it's just a more like developed society, or I mean, I don't know.
So
That's what I'd say.
It's
more developed
just
markets.
there are
By
some.
the way, sorry, your camera uh like went
No, no,
off.
no. It's normal for Riverside. It
Oh, okay.
freezes, but it still records everything.
Oh, okay, got you, got you,
You're good. Don't freak out because I remember the
got
first time I was freaking out too. So
you. Yeah, that's all good.
basically, what's going on is some cultures and some people are considered higher status than other people,
Yeah,
right? And you also see countries and cultures gain status. So a really good example is Korea. So Korea now versus Korea 20 years ago, it's like two completely different countries. Like its perception, the soft power, its place in the world is very, very, very different. And then you have a country like, unfortunately, where I'm from, Israel, that has lost a lot of status over the last couple of years.
yeah,
This is, it's just normal. So when you have a higher status country or country that's considered higher status, and you have somebody from that country, they're treated better. Like you can sell as an American if you go to Asia, you're treated better. If you're from a certain ethnicity, certain nationality, you're treated worse. It just is what it is. And Americans are not immune to status games. And then all effective cold calling is an extension of that status. So who has the highest status in America is a C-suite executive. So a lot of what we do and a lot of what my mom was training me to do when I was younger is she was training me to do very high level corporate business to business communication without me realizing it. And this is when we train our callers, it's very unnatural to talk the way that I'm talking right now. It's just like someone who's a boxer is unnatural. You have to overcome your human instincts. Someone who is an
yep,
opera singer is unnatural. You have to teach your body how to do it. The desire to be good is natural. The
yeah,
desire to get really, really good at something. But the skill set of it's really just four things. It's talking a lot more loudly than you think is normal. It's smiling because if you just talk loud and you don't smile, it sounds like you're yelling. But these two combinations, if you read the charisma myth, the power, like the Darth Vader and the Mother Teresa, they come together, and that's
mm,
charisma.
great
And
quote.
it's, by the way, it's also why I was. That's also why the cute people do better sometimes than really good looking, like bombshells. Like I was talking to the head manager of Xfinity Live back when that was like pound for pound the busiest nightclub in the U.S. And they were saying that the girls that looked like Anna Kendrick from Pitch Perfect would do better than the Marilyn Monroes because they were very approachable and
Yeah,
sweet, but they were still very pretty. So you're sort of doing the same thing with your voice. You're very loud, but you're very relaxed and you smile and you pause. You pause and you talk slow. And one of the things that we do is like actors will do this. So when we role play with our team, we have one character be the high status character. And then we have the other character that's the low status. If you ever watch those I Love Lucy shows, like a lot of humor and a lot of romantic comedies are status game humor. There's a really good Korean movie where you can really see it, where the guy is from America, like they're both Korean, but the guy's from America and he only speaks English. And the love
mm.
interest is Korean and she only speaks Korean. So the whole movie is really funny. He's like, "Blah, blah, 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 blah." He's like, go over here now. And it's funny, but it's like sexy at the same time. So you
yeah,
have so you can play status games as an actor, and those are a lot of fun. And it's the other thing that you can do to develop it is you can do high status communication, but just talk about random bullshit. So you can say, like, Christian, yesterday I went to the market and I got three apples and I gave one to my wife and it's just bullshit, but you get used to, and then people listen to you and they don't even know why.
it's really
And that's
smart.
when you know you're good.
Yeah,
So a lot of what we're teaching is really, really high status communication because the way you bridge the status gap, the way you get people to listen to you, because our brains are very survival based in the beginning. When we're first talking to somebody, it's friend or foe. It's, can this person help me? Should I listen to this person? So you can cross that bridge by being very relevant to someone, which is what a good cold email does. And you can also cross that bridge by being very high status. If you're very good looking, or if you're very successful, or if you sound like you are, you can also cross that bridge much easier. And then people listen to you. You don't have their full attention, but you have the Marvel movie brain will listen to you. So
Yeah.
and then when they like what you have to say, then they start thinking logically, right? But if you try to talk to somebody logically first, we know as marketers, and this is the reason people pay us, you can't just make an offer it's very logical and expected to work, right?
Yeah.
So that you have to, it's the logical brain first, a good script and a good offer second, and then there's the logical due diligence and sales process that you earn. You're buying time with their brain. So the first like 10, 20 seconds of the cold call buys you the 2 minutes, and that 2 minute pitch will buy you the call. And the call will buy you the second call. The second call will buy you the third call. And then you make a lot of money, right? So
Yep.
in the beginning, it's just how do you speak? So we spend a ton of time training. And then the next thing is, okay, well, what are the elements that make a successful script? So one of the things that we did is after we had 50 campaigns, because I used to just write the scripts from zero. And then I took the 50 scripts and I was like, okay, which 10 are performing the best? Which 10 are yielding the most results? Once we adjust for the offer. So some offers, there's a less leads, but the pipeline value is a lot higher. So we adjusted financially for the value of each lead. And then we're like, okay, which scripts are the best? And we split it into 6 different components of this is what a really good script is. So the first part is a permission based opener. So especially if you're pitching somebody and it's a very high level C-suite, you have to do it in a specific way. It's just like if you go up to a beautiful woman on the street, you can't just say anything. You
Yeah.
have to say something that makes sense. So what works really, really well is like, hey, is this Christian? Like, this is Ori. I'm calling from Mirraponte. This is actually a cold call. We do not know each other, but if you give me 20 seconds here, I'll explain why I reached out to you specifically. And from there, you can tell me if it makes sense to keep talking. Does it sound fair? And then they're like, yeah. Then you go into it.
Yeah.
Now, the way you say it is a little bit like a bad boy because you know that you broke the rules, right? So you know that you passed the gatekeeper. You know that you called them maybe like when they're about to leave the office or out of the transfer you,
Yeah.
but like you know you're doing something wrong, but you smile and it's like, I'm the one that your mom told you to stay away from. Like, do you want to hear what I have to say? Like that's the attitude. When you do it like that and you have fun with it, it works. When you start to sound like a customer service robot, you don't get the results. So, and then you do what works really, really well is relevant social proof and results. Like social proof is 80% of B2B. It's like everything you say is social proof. Typically, this happens. What we found with these kinds of companies is this. We work with this company and this happened. So it's like, it's not just like people think of social proof as like a video testimonial. Like, I worked with Christian and we booked him 500 calls over a 4-month period and he generated $180,000 as a result. Like, it's not like that. It's
Yeah.
everything. So it never ends. So, like, let's do an example. Like, Promise worked with 23 high ticket healthcare clinics, specifically in wellness, in concierge medicine, in dermatology, and in weight loss. And we do a full marketing analysis. This is the next thing. When you customize something for people, that is the easiest way to get them on a call. We tried
Yep.
everything, Christian. We tried bribing people. They thought it was a scam. We literally said we'll give you a $500 Google Ads card just for
Yeah.
talking to us. And people are like, fucking scammer. Sorry to curse. Sorry to curse everyone.
It's okay. It's okay.
They're like, you fucking scammer. No, they hung up. But if
Yeah.
you say, listen, we do a full marketing analysis, we look at your website conversions, your SEO, your outbound, your paid media, we don't move forward with a client unless we see the potential to add 30% revenue to their business within a 4-month time frame. Like, but we customize it for you. So that really works to get people on calls. And then
Yep.
you do credibility, you do a little bit more social proof, and then you ask for the call, and then you give a sales asset that triggers reciprocity. You're like, hey, do you want us to send you the lecture we did for Yale? We could do a quick call to explore. Like, does that work for you? And then you do a soft confirmation, and then you do like a warm follow through. You're like, we're really excited to see how we can help you. I'll be in touch with the team to see how it goes, but I think you're going to have a great meeting. Just review as much as you can, but they have to feel like you care. So that was like from a scripting standpoint, that's what you want to do. And then when you get on the phone with them, so a lot of times they don't remember who you are. You send them a bunch of stuff. Oh, another thing is that the text message automations are a must. So we were dealing
Mm.
with like 35% show rate because you're moving them, you're changing mediums. So when you're changing mediums, you have to meet them where they're at. So
Yep.
if you're going from cold email to like a Zoom call, it's less jarring than going from cold email to a phone call.
Yeah.
Or if you're doing a phone call to a Zoom, so the text message automations they get on their phone really help. So we give our clients text message automations, and then we got the show rate up to 70% to 80% for us, but it's industry dependent. So some industries are going
Yeah.
to have better than others. And then after that, how you deal with taking the call in the first place is really interesting because a lot of times, like the way I start calls is I'm like, listen, we do 1,000 cold calls a day. We do 1,000 cold emails a day. We do 1,200 LinkedIn connects a day. So we talk to 100 people a month. It's normal. Like I think maybe 1 out of 4 calls, somebody's like, I went on the Yale lecture. I read all your materials. I went on the website. Everything looks great. But like for 3 out of 4, they have no idea who we are. They're just like, yeah, the guy sounded good. I figured, let's see what they have to say, and now I'm here. Is that the case here? Is that the case with you? So I give them permission to be like, I don't know who the hell you are. And then, because what happens if you don't start the calls the right way, it turns into this like nightclub in Astoria competition where the bouncer is like, buddy, who are you? And you're like, buddy, do you know who I am? And that's the worst thing that can happen to an outbound campaign where you feel like
Yeah.
they owe you something and they feel like you owe them something. And that's like I've audited so many sales calls where it's like you actually had a win-win with the other person, but you were both too proud. So I'm just like, listen, if you don't know anything about us, it's cool. And then I intro the company. And then the next thing that I like to do is I just talk about their company. I'm like, I went on your outbound, I went on your website. This is what I see. And then, like, is this accurate? Is this correct? And the other thing that we started to do for our clients that was really successful because the biggest challenge was always they couldn't close deals. Like I
Yep.
want to read you part of this because we just had a client churn and I'm gonna read you part of the response and we're like, listen, like so far there have been 100 plus leads, less than 3 months. We're generating 14 outbound calls a month. 55% of those are with C-suite buyers. There's traction, but we had booked meetings with HCA and Advent. We had experts with Stanford, Ascension, Penn Medicine, Mount Sinai, Atrium Health, like huge. And
Yeah.
but what happened was they did no follow up. We wrote their VSL. They didn't want to film it. They didn't want us to film it. We wrote their PDF. They didn't want to input a few things and sign off on it. It took us 6 weeks to put in their LinkedIn automations. We had to do everything for them and their tax. So one of the things that we learned is we really have to build a lot of content that greases the groove of the outreach process. A lot of outreach is just you fight the last boss first. Do you know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
like and you don't realize, like for most companies, they don't realize that they have 50% of a business because it's like you're a single guy and you think you're like this really sexy guy, but every girl that you've dated, your mom introduces you to. Like everybody's a referral or a network.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So so
All
your
different.
entire sales process is broken because it's all girls that'll talk to you for an hour. And then all of a sudden you have to meet a girl at a coffee shop or a nightclub or whatever and get her number, get her to go out with you. You have no idea what to do, and you don't even know how bad it is until you're like you have to go up to her, your heart is pounding, you're like sweating everywhere, and you're like, why is this so hard? And then it's like the first 5 sales from outbound are just absolute nightmare mode torture. But then when you get the first 5, you just have so much confidence because you're like, okay, I got this Instagram model, I got this Eagles cheerleader to go out with me, I can probably do it again. I might
Yeah,
fail a bunch of times, but I'm
validated.
willing to fail because it's going to give me the people that I want to date or the companies that I want to work with,
Yeah,
right? And then it just becomes a question of how do I find the best targets? And like the scraping strategy and the triple verification, getting the phone numbers, that's actually where the real work is when you get good at outbound. And you know this from your business.
yeah,
Like most of the work is getting the leads. It's like you walk down the street in Miami and Brickell, and you'll get like 10 phone numbers because it's like every girl that you see are like, wow, she's gorgeous. I would at least go out with her, right? Maybe you would marry some of them. Unfortunately, it is still Miami, but they're still good girls. And I
yeah,
would
yeah,
rather be in a very target rich environment where there's a lot of girls that I would at least go out with than in, I don't know, the middle of Iowa where I maybe have to walk around the mall for 4 hours or just do online dating where I know I'm not that good looking. I know like you can't really riz online so well. So it's
yeah,
like,
yeah,
so the same thing with outbound, right? And for a lot of businesses, like in healthcare, they just don't know what they're doing. So there is a problem with outreach, especially for businesses where there's a lot of industry compliance or a lot of hoops you have to jump through, because it becomes like the kosher restaurant problem. Like, why is the food at the kosher restaurant, why does it taste bad? And I was like, well, it's because they work so hard to be compliant and kosher that there's not that much energy left to make sure the food is really good. So it's the same thing with healthcare with my industry. So one of the things that we do is first we do a really detailed summary of the company and we scrape everything we can find online and their intake form and every word on their website. And then we use that, then we generate the cold call script first. The reason cold call script always comes first, even if we're doing cold call, cold email, LinkedIn, is because the cold call script is the most unfettered because you
mm,
only have to worry about the human being. With cold
yeah,
email and with LinkedIn, you have to make sure you have to like slide through all the spam filters and the AI filters that are always changing. So you have to do heavy personalization, spin tax, one-to-one messaging. So there's a lot of hoops you have to jump through. But the cold call script, you're just talking to a person.
yep,
So that comes first. And then you do cold email and LinkedIn scripts. You can generate those from the cold call base and add like sauce to it and try different angles. And then you do the outbound scripts. You do the warm up, the warm follow up, the Calendly, the email automations. Then you do the video sales letter. We do video sales letters regardless of whether our clients use it or not, because it really helps the caller understand visually, because we script out all of our video sales with visual images. Like, this is what the offer does. And that's really good to help the caller from like feeling like they're reading, because a good way to keep yourself from reading from a script is when you have an image in your mind of what you're saying. So when you have a visual image of like what you're selling, the words have a lot more weight. They have a lot more depth. Um, and then from there we optimize the landing page for best practices. And then from there, we do a sales process, Gamma Doc. And then from there, we do 12 to 18 months of newsletters for the client, depending on their needs. And
yep,
then we audit the entire sales process. We look at how everything fits together. And then we're like, okay, well, where are you losing them as you do the sales process? And like when we do all of that stuff, a lot of times, like if a client like works really hard, you can bridge that gap and you can get that first sale in less than a month from outbound, which is huge.
Mhm.
And it took us longer. I feel like for most people, it takes like 6, 7 weeks. If we can get them somebody there in less than a month, it's a really good feeling. It's like really,
Yeah.
really good. And some clients are better than others. Some clients are more proactive than other clients. But I really believe sometimes the best clients are the smaller ones because they are very like they will go through the pain. Like
Yeah.
they're willing to iterate quickly. But that's like pretty much, I think my entire process from A to Z. We have, I don't know, 5 different docs on this, and like, I think something like 100 different videos about this stuff. But that's kind of how we look at outbound is just get someone to be really good at talking to someone else on the street and then going on a
Yeah.
date. And then eventually they're going to get a girlfriend, which is what we all want. Except in business, you can have 30 girlfriends. So,
Yeah, pretty much. And
and
I
it's
mean,
legal. So,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, I guess it covers the entire process. I think one question I have for you is like, what do you see for the future of outbound? Let's say going into the rest of this year, and then also going to like 2026, 2027, between cold email and calling. Like, let's say if you were to put your bets on whichever channel you think is going to kind of be the most consistent or most reliable, or just whichever one you'd say to double down on. Um, what would you say between like cold calling, cold email, LinkedIn? I mean, of course, each one has their own like advantages and whatnot. But
I think the big challenge, let me give you the strengths and weaknesses of all of them. I think with cold email, like we sell jets through cold email. Like we get like there are some C-suite executives, there are some people. We have a really good. We have 2 clients that are still just cold email. Everyone else is incorporated cold calling and LinkedIn or something else. But we have 2 clients that do just cold email. One of them is jets, and one of them is private equity.
mm,
And the reason is
yeah,
they're getting so many leads and it cuts through so much of the noise and cuts through gatekeepers that even with even though there's quote unquote better channels, the cold email is still so effective that they don't need more leads.
yeah,
So
definitely.
and like I think the big challenge that cold email is facing is that I believe that if Google or Microsoft could snap their fingers and eliminate all cold email, they would.
Oh yeah,
Like,
yeah,
and that's not the case with LinkedIn, and it's not the case with cold calling. So I think that's probably the biggest problem because the thing that is changing is not cold email and it's not LinkedIn and it's not cold calling. Like making a cold call in 2025 is the same as when I was making them in 1998. Like they're not different.
yeah,
Um, what's changing is AI.
yeah,
So, like, think about how much you can do. Like, this week, I've written something like 170 pages so far, and I filmed like 5 videos and I've scripted. Like, how could you do that? Like, it used to take me, I wrote a textbook, it took me a year and a half, like, all nights, all weekends. I had to read something like 400 different books, and it was a nightmare. And I had my best friend from GQ edit it, and now you can just do it all with AI. It would take me 2 weeks.
yeah,
Like, so it's like the reason cold email got nerfed was AI. It just got better at finding the cold emails.
yeah,
Like we don't know, but really, you know, the cost of filtering became a lot lower.
yeah,
So, and then the reason cold calling works better is because you can leverage all of those things like with AI. The hard part was getting the phone numbers, right? But now you can just have a ninja claygent and you can do some deep sig gymnastics too. But you can just scrape like 8 different data sources at once, depending on the client. You could enrich it, like you could just do everything much faster. Like to get a list 3 4 years ago was way harder. The phone numbers were way harder or a lot more expensive. They're
yeah,
still really expensive now, but it's nothing compared to what it was like 3 4 years ago. So it opens up. It's really where the AI sinks first because we were thinking as agencies, right? When we were doing cold email, we're like, we're the last people that are going to get replaced by AI. We would take our little Ubers in Miami and be like, look at us, kings of the world, printing money from our laptops. Meanwhile, the Uber guy is making more money than ever, and
Yeah.
we had to struggle to make everything work last year. So
Yeah.
we don't know where the AI is going to go. So
Yeah.
it's really how things develop, and because a big problem with predicting growth is we're not really built. You ever done the exponential thought experiments?
No, not familiar.
So like if you double the grains of rice every square on the chessboard, how many times you have to fold a paper before it gets to the moon? Like even if you know one, your brain can't process it.
Yeah.
Like our brains are not built to understand exponential growth. So because AI is growing exponentially, it's almost impossible to predict how quickly things are going to move, what's going to happen next, and really everything that we're doing as marketers is downstream of AI. So the only thing that we can predict is that the opportunities are going to change, and they're going to change faster than they did. Like like Facebook ads were good for 7 years. Cold email was good for like 4 years. Like the amount that things stay good is less long. I will say that with cold calling, I don't think, because it's such an old technology, I don't think that it's there's just not much that's gonna change.
Yeah.
But who knows? Like what might happen is it might just get flooded with it might just get so popular that but I mean cold calling is so psychologically difficult that I
Yeah.
don't know if that, because it's like it's like have you have you ever done cold approach? Have you ever gotten a girl's number and you went on dates and stuff in real life?
Yeah. Yeah. Of course.
Okay, but have you had friends that did it? Like it's pretty rare to
Yeah. It
see a
is. It
cold
is pretty
approach.
rare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like out of 100 guys that says they can do it, maybe one can.
Yeah.
So cold.
That's
So
a big point.
it's the same thing. It's like how many everybody thinks they can. Every guy thinks they can beat up anybody. They can get any a girl's phone number, and but then when they do it, they can't. Like
Yeah.
I talked to how many clients do you talk to that are like, yeah, I do cold calling. And I was like, well, how many calls do you make a week? And they're like, oh, like 50. And I was like, well, we do 1,000 a day. And they're like,
Yeah.
well, how? And I was like, oh, that's another thing is you wall everything off in the
Yeah.
business. So the cold caller just calls. And you set up everything, the best AI noise filtration, the best like auto dialer. All they have to do is call. And then you have another staff member, all they do is customer success. And then you have another one, all they do is scrape leads. And you have a pod, just like e-commerce, you have like a pod that's like responsible for a certain amount of clients. But you have the customer success, you have the scraping, you have the script writing, you have the call, but everyone just does one thing. And that's what makes it cheaper than doing it in-house, because you could do it for 20 clients or 30 or 40 or 50 clients, and the cost goes down the more clients you have, and
Yep.
you pass that savings along to the business. So that's another really important thing, but I don't think anybody really knows, because like it was really like I don't know anybody who was predicting AI, like this is where AI is going to be in 5 years, because we all thought that we'd have like robo taxis 5 6 years ago, and
Yeah.
it didn't happen, right? And we're still like
Well,
the Amazon,
they got those in LA though. They have a few of
yeah,
those
but
in LA.
it didn't conquer the world.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
like it's not like I can go and pay $3 and go into like a Tesla taxi and go to like Miami Beach. I
Yeah.
still have to like hire a crazy guy starting and stopping the car every 5 seconds, right? Like,
Yeah.
so it's like it doesn't happen. Like people are still delivering the Amazon packages hopped up on a leave, right? And like
Hmm.
working like 50, 60 hours a week to provide for their family. Like that's still going on. It's not all Optimus robots. So we don't know what is going to change first or second, or how the capacity is going to develop. And every time we think that we know, we're kind of wrong. And we also don't know a lot of what AI does is it reveals the humanity.
Mm.
So it's like we don't even know what parts not only are difficult to outsource, but what parts people don't want outsourced. Like
Yeah.
AI art is a good example where people don't really pay for it. Unless it's like they're getting tricked, like Instagram, like the fake Instagram models and stuff.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
people want to know that a human being did it.
Yeah.
And like the mistakes are what's gonna be. You ever read Neuromancer? You ever read this book?
No. No. No.
So they have this guy where he has like, if you're poor, you just look like a generic good looking person. And if you're rich, you kind of look ugly. Like
Mm.
you like they it's still a ton of plastic surgery, whatever. But just like you
Oh
ever
yeah.
see those like models in like Fashion Week that are like they have like a buck tooth or something, and that's like considered more high status
Yeah.
versus like if everyone just looked like, I don't know, a California blonde, it would be like generic because everybody can afford it in the future. So
Yeah.
the really high end stuff is going to look wrong. Like a lot of what makes people interesting, a lot of what makes art interesting is the mistakes.
Mhm.
So, and that's a lot of what makes outreach interesting too. That's one of the reasons like people like talking to people. They just like it. So
Yeah.
when it's like a caller or like when I do just me talking into the camera, it feels really real to people. And I think that the big problem with content is also how AI lobotomized it's gotten. And it actually makes the industry worse because you're regurgitating insights that may not be valid because the AI is deriving them. It's just kind of it's just kind of a B student like consensus of
Yeah.
what works and what doesn't work.
It's a great
Which is
point.
different from like a human who's doing it. So I think the big problem that AI suffers from, and the solution is to follow a human being. This was um this was how opera developed. So you know, Galileo's dad, do you know the story? Galileo's dad was responsible for developing opera
Mm.
because it used to be a chorus. Everything was a chorus. It was a bunch of people singing together. And Galileo's dad was really like, listen, we need to hear from like one individual person. We need to hear like one person's story, one person's message. And I think that's why people follow you. I think that's why people want to work with you is when they feel like you're a human being, you care about them, and you're good at what you do. And I
Yeah.
think that like that is the essence of outreach. You want a guy like the new Superman movie, you want a nice guy who's good at what he does, who gives a shit about you. That's my answer. Just do those three
Exactly.
things.
Yeah. And here's your thoughts on AI callers. Do you think that's ever like in the future, or even in the present moment? Because I've seen some traction on that. That's like a question I get
I mean, I
asked
have like
often.
three AI caller clients. They're the first to tell you that they're excellent for limited use cases.
Yeah.
So, like, let's say you have a pool company and you have five, fifth, I don't know, 10,000 people on the call list. And you just want to tell them about a special that you're doing. Like, you can't hire a salesperson to just call them all day. But like a caller can do it, a robocaller can do it. It'll be
Yeah.
like, hey, do you want to talk to somebody right now? You get 30% off this month for Memorial Day, whatever. Like,
Yeah.
cool. Like we had a company that made $1 million. Just $1 million extra revenue. Cost them like pennies. So
Yeah.
for specific use cases, they're great. It's when you try to replace a human being completely that I think it falls flat. Because people like buying from people. Like my brother is a very successful software engineer, algorithmic trader, like super smart, like Jane Street level market maker, builds trading bots. And one of the things he always says is he's like, you don't understand. Like sales and having a human being that you can iterate with and have a positive feedback loop with is the most difficult thing to outsource. And it's not something that people even want outsourced. So as long as you like the game of sales, I also feel like sales is the one game that you can't opt out of in life. Maybe
Yeah.
sales and like you have to do your cardio, right?
Yeah.
So it's like all the stuff we hate doing. But you can't like not do it. Like it's in everything. So I don't see that changing, but what I see changing is the amount of leverage that top performers have. So
Mm.
how many copywriters would you need to hire in your business right now if not for AI?
Oh man, we probably need at least another 4 or 5 employees.
And what happens is it's not so much about the employees, it's your corporate culture gets diluted. Because
Yeah.
do you know what Dunbar's number is?
No.
So Dunbar's number is this like this tribal number that's like you can
Oh,
only
I think I know what you're talking
handle
about.
a
Yeah.
hundred, yeah, you can only handle 150 connections in your head before things start to get blurry.
Yeah.
You ever have, you know what it feels like? You ever have like prom, like with like 600 people and it just feels like a blur? Doesn't
Yeah.
running your business feel like that now? Like about 50K a month? Does it all feel like a blur?
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
just
Pretty
trust
much
your
like
team?
across all the clients, and then it's just like, yeah.
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 You
Yeah.
know things are going well, but like team members are doing everything and you just step in when there's fires.
Yeah. Pretty
So it's
much.
it's very similar to that. But the less team members you need, the more you can keep a very high level of operations in corporate culture, right? Like, why are there a million Shake Shacks and there's only one 11 Madison Park? Why is only one best restaurant in the world? Why can't we clone it? Because
Yeah.
it's fucking hard. But if you can leverage a lot of those tasks, then you can actually clone it. And you can keep that same level of execution 50 clients, 100 clients, 200 clients. I think that is more important. But there's no
Very agree.
substitute for excellence, I think.
Yeah. I completely agree with you on that. That is very true. And yeah, I feel like that human touch when it comes to sales. I mean, maybe I guess to the point where it's so good that it's genuinely impossible to distinguish from a human. But I think that's going to be a very long time for now that we won't need to worry about. And I guess one last question, since we're kind of reaching out of time here. So with cold calling, let's say someone's listening to this, they already run their own cold email system or doing some sort of form of outreach or looking to do outreach. Where do you say cold calling fits within the overall outbound system? Like, do you think it's like the vehicle to that's going to help you scale further, or it's like a good vehicle for like getting some initial validation before firing cold email? Like, where would you say kind of fits within the overall outbound system?
Um, I like to set them up to stand and fall on their own merits.
Yeah.
So I don't like. I remember. Do you ever have these calls with these people that had like these super long flow charts, and we
Hmm.
were just kicking their ass with like
Hmm.
actual leads. Like I remember I got on this call with this one guy, and they're like, "Well, as soon as they put their information in, they get a no ring voicemail." And then 10 minutes later, they get an SMS. And then they get like a this. And I was like, okay, but how many leads do you get? And it was like way less than us.
Yeah.
So like I like to run the horses against each other. So like for healthcare, we usually say we do all three. Some people only respond to one. Some people will always answer the phone. Some people never answer the phone. Some people always look on LinkedIn. Some people never go on LinkedIn. Some people respond to cold emails like, you don't know how the person likes to buy. And it's financially not difficult because you can run the volume of 5 SDRs for the price of like a single knowledge worker or less, right? So it's like a trivial amount of money compared to having an SDR team like a few years ago. Um, but I think that with cold calling, so we have a client right now that we have 3 callers on, and we were iterating the script literally every 3 hours to make it
Mm.
better. I don't think that's possible to do with cold email because you don't even know. Like with cold email, you can't tell when they stop reading or why they don't
Yeah.
respond. But with like the script, we would be like, okay, this is the point in the script where everybody hangs up. When we say this word, everybody hangs up. What can we say instead? And then
Yeah.
3 hours later, there's another problem. And then 3 hours later, because with outreach, it's almost like one person. Do you know what I mean? It's like people react more similarly than we think. So
Mm.
it's like when you
True.
get good at getting someone's phone number, she's not that different from
Yeah.
the next girl. Like, she's different as a person, but the process of meeting a guy on the street that doesn't scare you, that seems like a good guy, like, that's kind of the same. So it's like when you get good with everybody, and the feedback loop and the iteration with cold calling is much, 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 much faster because you're like you can go balls to the wall on day one.
Yeah.
So I think that's the benefit. I think they're all good. I think with cold email and with LinkedIn, they're all good. But I think you can iterate a script with cold calling faster, and then also the scripts don't have to be as niche because niching in making something hyper relevant. I don't know your opinion on this, but for most outbound guys, they're like probably 80% of that is almost just to increase deliverability more than it is for the person reading it. Because a good offer is a good offer.
Yeah.
Like they're
Exactly.
really simple. Like I think you posted something today where you're like, hey, we do this, we help you with this. Is this interesting to you? Like it wasn't hyper personalized,
Yeah.
but like those will work. So a lot of the personalization, that the function of that is to get through the filters. It's not so much to make the offer better. It helps a little bit, but not as much as you'd think. And part of the reason is people are used to AI messaging. So people are used to some level of personalization. So it feels insincere, especially when it's very personalized. It would
Yeah.
be like me messaging a girl online and be like, I noticed you live on this street. You want
Yeah.
to get
Exactly.
coffee? Like a lot of times it weirds people out.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
the question is always why you're doing it.
Yeah.
And also with C-suite communication, it is very brusque and very informal and very plain. So it's like it's not like as a C-suite, like when I send email to my friend, it's not highly personalized. Like I was messaging Bodie from Striker. We have one of our clients that does actually the AI voice callers, and their ideal prospect is service-based business, which is what Bodhi does. And I sent him like a message. My opener was the based guy with a bong and a beret. And I was like, yo, you want to be my client? Like, he'll do a free trial for all of your clients, then he'll give you a sweet affiliate deal. He's like,
Yeah.
yeah, set it up. And they just met.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't hyper personalized. It was just like, do you want this? He's like, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
So,
that's so true. Like, if you have an amazing offer, you don't need any personalization. That's what we've seen across our entire clientele.
but
Any client
also
that's just an
like,
amazing offer, we don't do any personalization because it's just not necessary. Like the offer sells itself. We don't need to try to like twist the words anyway to where it
do you,
becomes somehow more convincing.
Do you know what I like about this? Have you seen this All In show, the All In podcast?
No, I haven't seen it.
So you should listen to it because it's all these billionaires like talking to each other, right?
Yeah,
And you'll notice, and this is one of the things that I tell my callers is I'm like, what you think corporate communication is only true in the middle. It's like the midway meme, and
yeah,
you're like the jacked guys that are working the dock and the CEOs, they talk the same way
yeah.
to each other.
Very
And then
true.
in the middle, there's all the bullshit. There's all the corporate bullshit. But you talk like a CEO.
Yeah,
And like that is very counterintuitive.
yeah,
But when they get it, they get it. Because then they start getting results. They're like, holy shit, I'm booking 5 times as many calls, and I sound like kind of a jerk. But a kind of a nice jerk. So
yeah,
that's the thing with sales is you can be very a lot of salespeople are kind of they watch too many gong.com videos and they just are super nice and they're selling value, but no one they're kind of pushovers, and then a lot of salespeople are super aggressive and they're always giving like these really hard ultimatums like we need a decision by the end of this call, and I was like, or what, motherfucker, like New Year's gonna come, like, and that the problem with doing that is it really pisses off your ideal prospects because
yeah,
we all know the game. It's like trying to get scholars mate in chess or something. Like if you've been playing chess for more than 20 minutes, you know the game. It just
yeah,
pisses
yeah,
you off. So it's like, so what does work is you just always give people a way to leave. You're just like, listen, why don't we just let me just send you the strategy. We'll do another meeting. We'll talk about the strategy. You talk about the strategy. You're like, let me send you let me send you the contract. We'll do another meeting. We'll talk about the contract. And then the onboarding, and then they just pay, and they're like, if you have any questions, let me know. But you always give them a way to leave, so then they can be honest with you because a lot of times they just don't think you can handle rejection, they're just not honest with you, so the deals don't close. This
Yeah.
is why like I don't send like a proposal, because what a proposal does is it mushes strategy and money and the contract. So if any one of those things is a no, then they just don't sign the proposal, and then you're following up with them forever. Like, hey, did you guys
Mm.
want to move forward? And then you have to do all this bullshit. We're only accepting 10 more clients for Q2.
Yeah.
Okay, buddy. Like, what is this? All this bullshit, even at high levels. I want to tell you a story, but I can't because I'm under NDA. But
Oh.
when I'm not under NDA, I will tell you a story about a very famous investment firm that is very notorious for doing this. But like, it's such a low level sale.
Yeah.
So people like buying. That's the thing with cold outreach too. That like the reason AI won't replace sales is because people like buying from people.
Yeah.
Like, don't you want to go when you buy like a Rolex or whatever? Like, I'm not really like a watch guy as a Timex. I just like Cartier style watches. Can you wear them with anything? But
Yeah.
like, when you go buy like a Rolex, don't you want like a beautiful girl to sell you like, how are you today? Person,
Yeah.
your friend Mason recommended you and blah blah blah. Do you want to look at the day dates we have on offer, or do you want maybe you want something a little more sophisticated? Maybe you want this, maybe you want a Cellini. Like, don't you want that treatment?
Yeah. It's gonna be like a experience or like something that kind of like tickles the ego a bit
We
throughout the
went to
process.
Gotham when I was a kid, and they said it, and my family was always like kind of broke. And we
Yeah.
paid for this like really rich family from Long Island. There was like a really pudgy kid who was eating all the steak, like a Willy Wonka character, like the like a super ego like huge kid. And we
Yeah.
were like poor, but we paid for dinner. And I remember when we paid for dinner, the server went up to my father and he was like, "Thank you, Mr. Geshury." And I was like, "Oh, that's pretty cool." I was like, it almost feels like it was worth it.
Yeah.
So you want to give people that experience, like in sales, you want to be fun to like. This is another thing. Your number one thing to be like your number one defense against AI is just to be fun to buy from and fun to work with.
Yeah.
Like, it's like you just want to be easy to work with. Leave money on the table, create win-win environments, like create a sense of abundance what in your sales process, because what you find is that people's morality changes, and the way they treat each other and the way they treat you changes in an environment of abundance. So
Yeah.
like when everyone has enough to eat, nobody's worried about predator. Like cats and dogs get along. Like everybody's happy. Like when you have clients that are really successful, like they stay forever. Everybody
Yeah.
wins. But you want to do as much as you can to cultivate that environment,
Mhm.
like as much as you can on your end. That's why you don't spend as much money as you could. It's this environment of we have a lot more than we need, and that buys you morals. Then people are just nice.
Yeah.
So that's like that helps you. It'll keep you out of a lot of trouble if you do that. Even when you have clients that have more financial challenges, they get sucked into that vibe.
Yeah. They just like that experience of buying from someone who it seems like that person is an expert and wants and actually cares about your success. Um yeah, I mean with that, yeah, people always want to buy from people.
It's
Um
also hard. Like, I think the big role of culture is the whole organization has to care. And this is
yeah.
like the hardest thing with an agency, because it's so easy for me to say, I do the content and I do the sales and I do the copy. And that's all I'm responsible for. And then my wife can say, I will do the data and I do the scripts. And I do, and then the team in Africa can be like, we just do the LinkedIn. And then the team in the Philippines, we just do the scraping. And then
Yeah.
the caller's like, I just do the calls, buddy. Like, hey, this is like, and
Yeah.
then what happens is nobody cares about the client.
Yeah,
And
they just care about the
because
individual role.
it's nobody's job. So
Yeah.
it's like you still have to care about the client. That's the most important thing. But that's the thing. That's probably the number one issue that agencies have is you
Yeah,
do
definitely.
everything right, but you don't care. And so because you don't care, it doesn't work. It doesn't work if you don't care.
Yeah. Very, very true. All right, well, we do have to wrap this up. We are coming on time. Any final words? Like anything? I mean, if you have anything
About
less,
what?
less. I don't know. Just cold calling in general. It sounds like
Yeah, just do it. It's so cheap. It's
just
so
do it.
cheap to do. And it's like, even if you try it for like, even if you try it for 2 months, even if it doesn't work for you, like there are businesses that doesn't work for, like for cleaning companies, it's not a good idea because your customer lifetime value is so low and like the margins are so low. And it's also really, people don't want to switch their cleaning company. You're like, what am I going to save like $150 a month? It's not worth the risk of
Yeah.
trying out a new guy. I'm not really unhappy. But you learn so much about the industry because like the market research that you get. Let me give you an analogy. So when you go on dates, when you're really young, you don't know what you're doing. So you have a date that you think went really, really well. And then the girl's like, I got more of a friend vibe. And you're like, what did I do wrong? I took her to the zoo and we just talked about our lives for 5 hours. Like, why
Yeah.
didn't she want to make out with me? Right. And now looking back, you're like, oh, okay, obviously.
Yeah.
But like, you don't know. But when you bartend, you get like $100 tip, a $20 tip, $30 tip. So you get feedback so much faster. It's like a puppy. Like we're all kind of like puppies. You do something and you don't get the feedback, so you don't learn the lesson. Like you didn't give the dog a treat. You didn't like tell him that chewing on the shoe is bad. And then you come back 2 hours later and eat your shoe. It's too late to teach them the lesson because it happened 2 hours ago. Like human beings are the same way. So when you cold call, you get immediate feedback from the market that's better than market research. We have so many companies in healthcare that spent all this money on market research, but none of it means anything because they didn't pay you a dollar. Like they didn't pay you. So what
Yeah.
does it matter what they said on the clipboard?
Yep.
It's meaningless. Like, did you go out with her? Yes or no? Did she become your girlfriend? Yes or no? Did you get a $20 tip? Did you get a $50 tip? Did you get a $100 tip? Without that, without that feedback loop, it's impossible to know. And that, like, that feeling of not knowing how to sell something or how to communicate with your audience is the scariest feeling as a business owner. Cold calling, besides the financial benefit, is the best way to address that feeling. So,
Yep.
does that make sense?
Yeah. Very true. Very, very true. And I think on that we'll leave it there.
Cool.
Moral of the story: do cold calls.
Do
It's
cold
good for
or
you.
don't. I don't know.
Just do it.
Just
Stop
do
being
it.
a pussy. Do cold calls.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Anything
All right.
else? Good.
I think we're good on that, man. I mean, you kind
Okay.
of shared everything. Um, yeah, that was awesome, man. I really
Sweet.
appreciate you hopping on
Cool.
and
It's
sharing the sauce.
over. Okay. See you guys soon.